you might look at that and say, this is in a great jurisdiction, and come unstuck due to a whole bunch of other things because it's uranium.
And Nico started to earlier mention about the investment, at least coming into Blue Sky. Where is this sort of investment? Where do you see the investment coming from? And I suppose how does regulatory support start to factor into the kind of growth in the industry or interest?
I think for the first time in a long time, we saw institutional interest in investing in uranium. I think a lot of funds were seeing that, we're seeing what we're talking about tonight, that we're seeing that the price of uranium was about to uptick, and they were beginning to place their bets fairly early, and those are the first real indicators that I felt that, okay, where this is a real solid move here. Smart money basically is making this decision. And then following that, we're seeing just a whole swath of retail investors chasing it. And we're seeing the volumes in our everyday stock pricing beginning to ticker up, and just a love for uranium. And there's not that many companies that you can invest in. It's not 15 years ago, 10, 12 years ago, the last uranium boom, I think on a Toronto Stock Exchange, you had 500-600 companies that were in the uranium business, but now there's less than 30. So the number of investments that you can actually make has shrunk dramatically.
And I suppose, Guy, bringing you in here as an investor, where are you guys seeing opportunities? Yeah.
To Nico's point, I mean, you've got a bunch of companies, a market capitalization that fits inside of Fortescue or Freeport, and those companies are responsible for providing the raw material input that generates 10% of the world's electricity. I mean, it's just extraordinary how small and undervalued the sector is. And when you look at price moves in September, for example, that was a little bit spurred on by some of this sort of social media platform activity. It just shows how small that doorway is to get that exposure. And when you look through the cycle, the bits in the middle from uranium to fuel are not very investable, and then the utilities I've mentioned before are very diversified, so you can't really get that exposure. It has to be uranium mining. And the opportunity now comes at looking back at history. To Nico's point, the last bull market, there was a lot of investment opportunities that are not currently there, which means that there's a lot of potential projects out there that may come to market soon. And from that last bull market, there are some very good properties that didn't make it because the timing of the cycle prohibited that. And whilst you will see some of that moose pasture sort of run out again to the market to try to look for a quick return, there are some quality assets out there. We're certainly keeping an eye on them and talking to people that we think may be responsible to bring them back to market. And as well, I mean, as broader interest gets into the sector, a good diversified cross-section of stocks at the moment works well for you, because that money needs to find a home.
Okay, so we've had a question come in for Guy. When looking at investment opportunities, are you jurisdiction sensitive given the issues around uranium and the politics that go with it?
Yeah, look, jurisdiction, I mean, you have to start with an ore body. As mining specialists, and George as a geologist will attest to this as well. You need to make sure that what you're looking at has the right signals to be exploited with respect to drilling or what have you. The jurisdiction, ordinarily jurisdiction is important for us in our global natural resources business. The uranium story means that jurisdictions that you may avoid for other commodities, because that commodity is mined in better jurisdictions potentially, you don't necessarily have that choice. But when it comes to those jurisdictions, There's a number of those countries, especially in Africa, where the French have been there for 40 or 50 odd years mining these ore bodies without any problems. So, when you look at that, because of the fact that there's less jurisdictions, we're not as agnostic on that. We get more worried about permitting and community. So some of the better jurisdictions on paper turn out to have a few more skeletons in the closet when it turns out when it turns around to litigious groups or bureaucratic process with respect to getting numerous permits. So you might look at that and say this is in a great jurisdiction and come unstuck due to a whole bunch of other things because it's uranium.